Arcane Season 1 is a Netflix streaming show based off the popular video game League of Legends. Set in utopian Piltover in the oppressed underground of Zon, the story follows the origins of two iconic League of Legends champions and the power that will tear them apart. I remember going to this series for the first time pretty blind. I never saw a trailer. I only heard about it once the buzz started rolling in about how great this show was, how the animation is stellar, how the writing is fantastic, how the characters were intriguing. Literally everybody was raving about it. It was one of the top viewed shows of 2021 and is considered one of the best animated shows of all time. And I reviewed every episode individually and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And to this day, after giving it another rewatch, fuck, it is even better than I remember. Holy shit. Arcane Season 1 is absolutely incredible. I believe the characters are even better than I thought they were before. The nuances that I did not pick up at first, I got even more the fifth time around, I believe. The writing is stellar. The animation is top notch. Literally what everyone has ever said about this show, true. In fact, since I've already kind of reviewed it, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that the three arcs that the show is separated in, like the first act being about Vi and Powder as children, the second act is exploring them torn apart until they eventually finally meet up together. Then the third act is when everything comes to a head and they need to figure things out if they're able to be a family again. Was very investing, and I love how the show never felt the need to sugarcoat any of this drama. Literally all dramatic elements that the show had to present itself to make this story about two sisters who are separated and trying to find a way back together. This show was able to find ways to make it investing, tragic, sad, and in some ways hopeful at times when you feel like there is a glimmer of hope for Powder, or in this case, in the future, Jinx, is going to be able to finally be with her sister after everything they've been through. And Vi as a character herself is just as intriguing. I really like the performance that Haley Steinfeld gives this character, and I think the character itself is a really fascinating one. Someone who's always been tough and has always been a leader figure, though it never felt like she's able to step up to the plate of her father. She is doing her best in any way, shape, or form to be able to be that leader that her father knows that she can be. And the first three episodes that explore these characters of Powder and Jinx as kids, I thought were really great and really tragic by the third episode, which at that point, by the third episode onwards, the show just never let up. While I did enjoy the first two episodes and I thought they were great, once the third episode kicks in, it's like the show just ran on a completely different level. You got Super Saiyan, and then episode 3 onwards is like Super Saiyan God. But that's not the only plot line. We also explore a character named Jace who is trying to figure out Hex Tech magic and is trying to figure out how to utilize arcane magic, and is trying to do that for the sake of Piltover, trying to make his city a better place. And he has to deal with a lot of the political ramifications of using such power and how people are going to try and use it for their own gains, which connects to the villain of the story, Silco, who is an underground boss of sorts who is trying to have his side of Piltover in his rule. He's trying to have the Undercity be under his word and trying to lead his own way. He doesn't need Piltover, at least he doesn't think he needs Piltover. He's trying to steal resources from them, trying to cause harm by any means necessary. And to do that, he needs the help of Jinx, which in this case is Powder, who is helping him out with all these criminal things that he needs to do in order to get these jobs done to be able to free the Undercity from Piltover's grasp, considering that Piltover cares so little about the Undercity and its people to the point where they even cause harm to the people of the Undercity at times. So you understand why he feels like he needs to rule away from the high-class city of Piltover, but he's also doing a lot of harm, killing all sorts of innocent people, and is not understanding as to why his brother at first is willing to put up with the upper class and be able to work with them just because he wants as much peace and no hostility as possible. That is until we see the relationship with him and Jinx, which in this case is sort of like a Joker and Harley Quinn type relationship. Not in the way that's abusing, but in the way that it is toxic. These two are supposed to be a father and daughter type of relationship, but there's so many things going on with these characters that just feel too much more than that. That is kind of a bit sickening, but you understand, at least despite that sickness, that Silco does legitimately care for her as a daughter. At least. I think there is something more to that in his sick mind that I think is worth exploring. And all in all, I think how it delved into this relationship was far enough to not be like too grotesque, but for you to feel unsettled when they're on screen together. And I really like this dynamic. It felt something like the characters would do at this point, because they've been so wronged by so many people, and they feel like they need to delve into some more traumatic shit in order to cope with everything that's going on. It's an all-around sick relationship that I think it is interesting, at least, and it never goes too far with this dynamic. It just teeters on that line perfectly. As for the animation and the filmmaking in this show, it is beautiful. The backgrounds are fantastic. You get this watercolor 2D/3D effect here that movies like Spider-Verse or, Puss in Boots and the Last Wish will later on utilize, and it works so well with this show. It makes the visuals pop out so much. The character designs look amazing. It all feels fluid, and at times also like a comic book. There are times where the action will change styles with this artwork, and it is so enthralling. Like this scene where Jinx is fighting Echo after many years of them being apart, and the whole fight is changing into another style where the graphics get lower and the frames per second is less, and it calls back to moments of their childhood that is very intriguing to watch. This whole fight sequence is fantastic, but the rest of the fights in this show are just as white knuckled, just as intense and exciting to watch. It is a beautifully put together show in the sense of the action, but as the rest of the show itself, beautifully animated, perfectly edited. Each scene takes this time perfectly to set up what's going to happen next or to explore the characters and what's going on with them. I also really like the relationship between Vi and Caitlyn. They are at odds at first due to how they were both raised, with Caitlyn being from the upper class city of Piltover and with Vi being an underground person and is not given a lot in her life to look hopeful to. Watching these characters try to come to some sort of common ground was really intriguing to watch, as we see how their worldviews are starting to change a little bit as they start to grow closer to one another at a point where it seems like they are going to form some sort of loving relationship. And I think that was really intriguing to watch, and the romance that I feel like is gonna blossom between these two characters by the second season, I think felt natural. It felt realistic, and that's what I really liked about the show. Despite it being taking place in a very fantastical setting, it still at many points felt realistic with the way characters act towards one another, with the way characters interact, with what they talk about. There is always something that feels grounded. Despite all the action or crazy technology that is invented here, or the talking animals, this show felt real. It felt human. The story felt grounded. This show, in my opinion, is perfect. The way it is, the characters, the music, the soundtrack itself is like fantastic. Song choices were fantastic, and the score itself, especially in episode 3, holy, it is fantastic. And I cannot find a single flaw in this show really to critique, other than the fact that the first 2 episodes are not as great as the rest of the episodes, but still, the first 2 episodes are still fantastic and set up this world extremely well. I love Arcane. It is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I'm going to give season 1 an A+. I cannot wait for the second season, and I hope it lives up to my anticipation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.